Welcome to the Process Podcast.
From new agent to broker owner.
My name is Travis McClure. This is my co-host, Preston Guyton. Welcome to the Process Podcast. This is Travis McClure, my co-host, Preston Guyton. Preston, how you doing today, sir?
Good, man. Good. Afternoon podcast.
Yeah,
Not the normal. I'm going to get a sunburn tomorrow.
Yeah, we're doing the not normal late afternoon podcast for us. Usually we like to knock this out early in the day, but sometimes our schedule doesn't allow us to. So we are rolling with our calendar today, and we're less than a week away from our half marathon commitment. Preston, how you feeling?
I feel good. Yeah, I had ran Saturday and Sunday. Feel good.
Yeah, today is
have a little groin tweak, but
yeah.
Other than that, it's I'll do good.
Good. Yeah, you definitely want to rest that. Today's Tuesday. Our half marathon is going to be Sunday. I feel good as well. Number one, the weather here in Myrtle Beach on Sunday for a race is absolutely perfect. You're going to be mid 50s, low wind, sunny, low humidity. You couldn't ask for a better half marathon race morning.
It's 57.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Yep, at race time at 7 a.m. I feel good as well. So honestly, I was telling you via text, it's the first race I've ever gone into. It's like a real plan of what I've in terms of preparation and the actual race in terms of strategy. So I feel really good about where I'm at in my race prep. Years past, I've always just kind of showed up with the strategy of run fast.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to jump into today, Preston, I've heard this term. I heard it a couple times in Tahoe. I've seen it thrown around on social media a little bit, and it's the term for this time of year for broker owners and agents. The term is called it's separation season. What exactly does that mean? If I'm listening to this and maybe it's the first time you've heard it, what does that mean when you hear that it's separation season?
So I think what they mean by that is whether you're a team or a brokerage, it's a time when, a lot of times people, you hear it all year that, they don't want to leave the brokerage they're at or the team they're at because, they're split they're on or wherever they're at with their business. And, this time of the year is when people kind of look at where they are and look at other options, so it's a good time to be in front of the agents you have. And, if you're recruiting, trying to grow a company, it's time to reach out to agents as well.
Yeah, I think 100% what happens is agents' business this time of year leading into the holidays starts to slow down a little bit, right? And agents a lot of times use that as an opportunity to explore their options in terms of the company they're at.
Yeah, and I think it'll be more so even now. Not only you have, the normal conditions of a slowdown in the market for the holidays,
Mm-hmm.
Less people searching online, less people looking for houses, they're looking for gifts online or whatever they're searching for. But now with the market changing, you even have more people, I think, questioning, okay, does this make sense where I'm at? Are they giving me enough value for what I'm paying? Or, am I getting enough value for what I'm not paying? Right. So that could go both ways. You could be, split could be a certain way where you're not getting enough value, or it could be you're on 100% or whatever, and what value are you actually getting? So I think a lot of people are starting to, look at that this time of the year, and especially with the way the market's changed, I think you're going to see more and more people, starting to look around.
Yeah, so you hear all that, and as a broker owner, you start to think to yourself, well, now that leads us down the path and discussing recruiting, right? The R word. Obviously, for a broker owner or team lead, maybe you're trying to grow your team, or we're going to get into retention as well. Preston, talk about recruiting. Like, what does that mean to you when we say the word recruiting as a broker owner or team lead?
Yeah, I mean, just trying to grow your company. I mean, for us, one of the things we talk about is, when you recruit, we was try not to, call and reach out and, do the data dump and everything else. I mean, try to educate and try to provide value, and just reach out and stay in front of people. It should be just like an activity like prospecting. If you're prospecting for new business, or you're prospecting, your past sphere of influence or whatever it is, it needs to be a part, especially when you're with a brokerage or a team trying to grow. It needs to be a big part of really what you do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think a lot of times, as broker owners or team leads. We did the episode last week on success leaves clues, right? And I think what all those speakers had in common as team leads or broker owners, they had some sort of recruiting system, basically prospecting for their brokerage business in place, whether that they made the calls daily or they had a person in place that made the calls daily. And I think it's no different than if you're an agent trying to grow your business. If you don't call anybody, your business slowly is going to shrink over time. Same thing with a brokerage with agents. I think the other gear to think about too, and I think it's really easily overlooked, especially in companies that grow really fast. We talk about a lot of it here, is there's an internal recruiting piece as well, right? I think retention is so important, especially this time of year. You're not the only brokerage. If you are listening to this and you recruit, you're not the only brokerage in your market that's calling agents. There's people calling your agents too.
Oh, yeah, it's just like, you're not the only, when you have a lead that signs up on your website, most likely they sign up on 10 different websites. So
Mhm.
they're getting phone calls, at least one phone call from agents. They usually give up after one or two, but they're getting those phone calls. So, same thing with recruiting. I mean, don't think because you're recruiting that your agents aren't being recruited as well. It's definitely, it's definitely something that when you think about it as well, you need to make sure you have, just like you have a plan for your new leads coming in. I mean, you need to have a plan if you're trying to grow your team or brokerage, that needs to be a big part of your business.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You have to have a plan in place to call new recruits daily.
Yeah.
And you also have to have a plan, especially this time of year, to call the people, call the agents you have in place right now.
Oh, yeah.
I think that's something you got to map out, and and if you have a leadership team, you break it up amongst your leadership team. If you're a smaller company, you break it up where you call X amount of agents per day within your company, and it could be, I call it just like a Columbo type call. How's everything going? How's your family? How is your business going? What challenges are you having? What's going well, right? Have those kind of dialogues with them. And you can kind of figure out from there, do I need to meet with this person possibly in person, take them to coffee, take them to lunch? Are they good and just kind of want to be left alone? Because there's some agents that want that as well. But you have to have that plan in place for retention. Just as important as having that plan in place to meet and recruit new people. Shifting gears sometimes, a lot of times, I like to think I always like to make the correlation between being an agent and being a broker owner because I feel like there's a lot of similarities. You do some different stuff, but there's a lot of similarities in how you grow your business. And I think there's a lot of mistakes that are made in recruiting, Preston. I know John talks about them quite a bit in a lot of the mastermind events we've attended and a lot of the training videos he puts out for broker owners. But I want to jump into some of the mistakes that are made. What do you think the biggest mistake owners make around recruiting?
I really think, really asking for a close or a meeting or,
Mhm.
joining with limited information, going in and like data dumping on somebody and not creating a relationship. It's just, you think of providing value and, you think of when you go into it, provide value and maybe not even ask for a meeting, just kind of stay in front of them. I think a lot of people lead with, and I think a lot of people lead with talking about other companies. Like,
Yes,
that's
huge.
to me is the worst thing. Something I never do. I mean, if you're recruiting people, I think it puts a lot of people off when you say, "Oh, they're not doing this, they're not doing that,"
Mhm.
and how do they even know? They're not even in your company. I think it's if you're a recruiter or somebody within the company and leadership, talk about what you offer. Sell
Yeah.
people on what you offer instead of trying to talk about other companies what they're not doing because you don't really know what they're doing. And that's what we focus on. We focus on teaching people and educating people on what we're doing within our company, within our own walls. And that's the way you want people to join you. You don't want people to join you because you said bad things about the company they're with.
Yeah, it's interesting. I always think of it as like a job interview, and it's such a unique type of job interview because really they're interviewing you,
Yeah.
right? To decide if they want to work there. I get you're also making a decision if they're the right fit, but at the end of the day, they're interviewing you. And think about if you were an employee hiring somebody, right? And you had a job interview, and the employee sat down in front of you, and all they did for 30 minutes was talk bad about the place they work now. You'd
Yeah.
you'd be very hesitant about hiring that employee, right? Well, now reverse that. They're interviewing you and all you want to do is talk bad about other companies or other places of employment. It's not a good first impression for that person when you sit down and talk about business. I couldn't agree with that more. I think where some broker owners get frustrated making the prospecting calls is they have that mindset of like, all right, if I call 100 people, 30 of them should want to meet and I should be able to convert half of those. John Cheplack talks all the time about when you sit down and make calls, right? Cold calls to agents. 95% of those agents, when they pick up the phone and talk to you, have no intention on moving companies. They have no intention in that first time you talk to them. As a matter of fact, on average, it takes 14 contacts before an agent will make the decision, an experienced agent will make the decision to move companies, right? So you can't sit down and talk to one agent one time and expect, okay, well, prospecting in my marketplace doesn't work,
Yeah.
right? So I think John does a good job teaching us and coaching us around what he calls making deposits into that business relationship bank over time, building micro commitments. Talk about that, Preston. How do you, as a broker owner in a market, how do you make deposits into agents' accounts over time to build the trust?
I mean, really educate, in that first call, you could talk about, talk about them, let them talk about what they're doing that's working, what's not working, help them with struggles they're having
Hmm.
and give them information. And then, maybe that's a newsletter or maybe that's an email you send out once a week, once a month, or whatever it is, just to continue to educate and help and share things that are working, within our company, that within what we're doing. So, I mean, I really think it's kind of getting them to open up more about what's going on with them,
Yes.
and that's the biggest thing. Like, you think of any recruiting call, a lot of the ones I've listened to, they always talk about what we're doing, what, this is what we offer, this is that, this splits this and that. And, they get into all those things early on and they don't even have a relationship yet.
Yeah.
There's not been any courting or whatever you want to call it. There's just not, it's jumping into trying to get a kiss.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly it. You're, I call it the drunk guy at the bar,
Yeah.
right? Like, don't be the drunk guy at the bar. And I've had this talk even with, people in our organization. I'll be like, hey, how'd that meeting go? They're like, oh, it went great. And a day later or 2 days later, like, yeah, they've started ghosting me. I'm not hearing back. Well, that happens because you sat there the whole time talking about you. Me,
Yeah.
me, 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 me. You data dumped them. You told them what you thought was most important. You told them what you thought they wanted to hear, but you didn't let them talk about their business.
Yeah.
Or you
Well,
didn't
and
ask.
yeah, and if you give them all the information right up front, what else do they need from you?
Right.
You've already given them everything. There's nothing else, there's nothing else you could talk about. I mean, you can't talk, it's you've already given them everything. So why, why would they reach back out to get more information?
I think sometimes as brokers, we look past the clues, right? Like, I loved asking a question like, what doesn't your current company offer that you're looking for in your next company? They're going to tell you what they want to talk about right then and there.
Yeah.
It could be training, it could be split, it could be leads, it could be whatever it is. But if you don't ask a question like that, let them answer it, and that's what you talk about.
Yeah.
They've just told you what's most important to them in their business. And I've listened to calls and I've sat in on meetings where that question will get asked. The agent will say, hey, I'm looking for leads. And then the person recruiting starts talking about training. Well, they didn't say training was important. It's important to you because you think we do a great job at it, but
Yeah.
it wasn't important to them. So take the conversation to where they think is important to their business. It's just like if you sat down with a seller, Preston, and someone was interested in selling their house, and they listed all the reasons they were trying to sell their house and what was important to them about the sale of their home. And back in the day, we used to teach, well, prioritize what's most important to you about getting your house sold. And they would say, well, price. I need to get a good price. And then you start talking about your marketing plan,
Yeah.
right? You didn't go into like the pricing strategy or the price for the home. You just started talking about marketing, or you went right into the contract, the listing agreement, right? You didn't talk about the pricing strategy at all. You started talking about what was important to you or what you felt you did well, right? You shied away from the pricing conversation that maybe some agents is a little bit challenging. It's no different, right? They'll tell you where to take the conversation if you listen,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
think about it, even like buyers, you got somebody looking at us in front property, all of a
Mhm.
sudden you're talking about farms and Conway.
Yeah.
It's obviously, if they're looking, you're not going to show. I mean, look at it like a buyer, right? If you're not going to show somebody something out in Conway if they're interested in oceanfront condos,
Mhm.
so why would you go a direction if somebody gives you the information in a meeting? Why would you go in a different direction than what they're talking about?
Yeah. And the other piece of that, circling back to something you had mentioned and going back to, what John Cheplack coaches us around, and he always says lead with value, right? Lead with value, lead with things that are going to help them in their business, lead with items of value and marketing emails, lead with, like I just had coffee with an agent a little bit ago. We didn't even talk about changing companies. We talked about his business. We talked about struggles he was having. I shared some ideas of things that I think could help him out. Be the coach for them before they decide to move to your company,
Yeah.
right? Like, um,
And John says something, along the lines of, show them what it's like to be there
yes,
before they actually join. So if you show them all these things like the coaching and the things, that we're doing and they can be doing and helping them with their own business, most likely if they're reaching outside the company they're at, they're not getting that there.
right,
So they're not getting, somebody at the company they're at is not listening to what they need help with.
yeah,
If they were, then why else would they be reaching out to, a different company?
yeah. And I think if you go into an appointment, like a coffee appointment, with the expectation of I'm not going to get a commitment today, I almost have that like coaching talk with myself.
Yeah. It's hard to do.
It
Like, it is
is really
hard to
hard.
do, but
Yeah,
you think about it, like, how all of a sudden you left coffee and you didn't say anything about joining or anything about the company, and they leave and they're probably like, "That was," I mean, not weird, but it was obviously a lot different than I thought it would be. Like, I
right.
thought there would be some kind of pitch, but there was no pitch. It's just more, meeting and helping somebody with their business.
I've actually had it where I've taken that approach, Preston. And I don't do a lot of the recruiting appointments in this company. We have Nick who does that. But I do occasionally. An agent reaches out or I have a good conversation. But I've gotten to the end of it where the agent will ask me for the pitch.
Yeah.
I literally have had that happen where it's like, oh, okay, well, I wasn't planning on,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
since
I
you've asked,
wasn't
let's talk
planning
about
on, let's pull out the book. I already have it right here.
it. But most people lead with, and I'll go back to the drunk guy at the bar equation. Most people lead with the here, this is why we're so great, right? Versus just be yourself,
Yeah.
organically have conversation about your life, their business. And if they're truly interested in something beyond that, they'll tell you,
Yeah.
right? But I think over time you can never lose just lead. And I love how John says it. He says lead with value.
Yeah.
And I think over time you'll never lose with that because eventually those little micro deposits of value of just meeting for coffee and giving them some advice on their database or this or that, over time that leads to building a relationship that they don't have at their current company that may make them want to switch.
Yeah, something on that too that's interesting. Like we've had where we've met with people and not talked about moving and just, help them with their business. And they end up referring agents to us.
Yes,
So
that
they're
happens.
with a different company and they have somebody that just got licensed or is thinking about moving the company they're at and they refer them to us. So it's pretty interesting when you have people that are you meet with and don't necessarily join your company, but they're basically recruiting for you because when they have somebody ask about, what's a good company to join, they mention our company. So that's pretty neat.
Yes, it is. One thing I think is important, Preston, to discuss when it comes to recruiting, and John says this all the time as well, and I've heard it time and time again in my career in real estate, is agents will leave you for the same reason they joined you.
Oh yeah.
And to me, when I think of that, the biggest red flag I have when talking to an agent is when the meeting's all about cost. How
Yeah.
much do you cost? What are your splits? Um,
Well,
if
they open up with that.
yes,
A lot of times they open up with that, and a lot of times you'll get that on the phone call, and those are
hmm
not the ones that personally I would not meet with. It doesn't fit into what we're doing. We want to be so much more than just a company that's about because there's better if they're worried about a split. There's a lot better companies. There's better splits out there. No matter
hmm
where you're at, no matter where you're at, most likely you could find a better split somewhere else.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I call that the race to the bottom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't mean that in a negative way, but I just mean there's like Preston said, there's always a company out there that's willing to do it less expensive, right? And if that's what the agent's focused on, eventually one day they're going to have a bad day, with something, and they're just going to look for the next cheapest option because an agent will stay or leave your company for the same reason they came to your company. So always keep that in mind. So if that conversation in that recruiting room is all about cost and you were able to undercut their current brokerage and that's why they're coming over because they're going to make so much more money, well, guess what? You're not the cheapest. I guarantee you're probably not the cheapest brokers in town. They're going to find someone else who can do it cheaper. So let that be kind of a red flag to you too when you're having these recruiting conversations. You don't want them to be all about cost. There's a difference between being a value and providing value. And I think as a company, you definitely need to have solid items of value that attract agents to your company. What are your thoughts around that, Preston?
Yeah, I mean, for us, when we started, we wanted to be, have the education, have the training, have the lead gen side, all those things of value. We wanted to, we didn't want to overpromise.
Hmm.
We wanted to make sure what we said we were doing, we would do, and we'd continue to get better. So definitely, for us, I would never want to have a brokerage that the splits are so high and what I'm offering them is not of great value. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I would not want to be the one where I want to have 2,000 agents at a minimal cost but making enough off of each agent but you're really not, when you look at the numbers, not a whole lot you can offer by doing that.
No, and I think from the agent perspective, I'm a believer in you have to find like-minded agents, and a high-minded agent views their brokerage cost as an investment.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I view what we do is they invest in a company that, hey, I want to be at this company and I want to hang my real estate license here. This is where I want to work. And as leaders of the company, it's our job to then provide value, which is the return on that investment that they're making.
Yeah.
And a lot of like anytime I get into a recruiting conversation with an agent who's thinking about joining our company and the conversation goes towards cost, I usually gear it around that. That's it. I make I frame the conversation around, well, yeah, this is the investment that you're going to make towards our company, but this is the return on investment that you get. Whether and like I said, you have to have items of value that make that a good return on investment for the agent. For us, we have a big focus around training and development. We have a big focus around lead generation. We talk about easy home search. So those are things typically most agents have a lot of uncertainty around when they join a company. Every company is going to say they have great training. Everyone on the planet will say that, right? Not all companies deliver on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And, with us too, we spend the money on coaching and making sure and putting ourselves in the rooms that, we see what's happening across the country before a lot of times it gets here, or we see good ideas that are working in different markets and we're quick to implement. I mean, that's one thing we focus on. We're quick to implement. And when we go to an event, we'll implement what we think makes sense. And all those investments and all those things we do is to better the agents we
yeah,
have. When you look at like lead gen, I mean, what I'm doing now, I'm training companies across the country doing, but I'm still and always will be doing that for Palms Realty. So, that's something that we focus on. And, I always say I want to make sure the agents have enough leads well, I hate to call them leads, enough opportunities coming in to where
conversation
they don't
opportunities.
have to go outside and worry about spending hundreds of dollars per lead, whether it's Zillow, Realtor.com, or any of these other national lead sources. That's something that is a big focus on mine every single day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. And I think, just kind of sitting in on different recruiting appointments and, talking to our recruiting department, a lot of what this market has done, Preston, has created a lot of uncertainty for agents, right? Agents are having to talk to more people to do the same amount of business, right?
Yeah.
I think I heard you say it's almost like Bill Pipe said it's 8, where it was like 40-1. Now it's like you have to have 80 conversations to find one
Yeah, well,
client.
I was talking to him on our Sunday night call, and I was like, what do you think the number is? Like, well, obviously, I don't you don't have a crystal ball in front of you, but what would you call it?
40-1's a normal
Yeah,
market.
yeah, yeah. So he said 40 to 60, but he said for next year 80 should be the number. And like a bad market, a really bad market, you're looking at about 120 conversations for one contract. So when you think about that, I mean, typically what we see in the database with a agent that's really good at prospecting, does a really good job, they probably have 10 to 15 conversations per
Mm,
100 people they call, right? So
yeah.
when you have those numbers, and that, one of the things we're doing as well, when you talk about recruiting your agents or re-enrolling or whatever you want to call it, just staying in front of the agents you have. Do things towards the end of the year like training programs, business planning, all these things that when you're looking into 2023, when they have that uncertainty, what are you helping them with to get them through 2023 and to plan for 2023? So, like one of the things we're doing in one of the upcoming meetings is business planning. We're having to go to the board next week.
Mhm.
And then after that, we're going to do a business plan meeting where we all get together, where it's via Zoom or whatever. We share that business plan and help them walk through it and help them make a plan. And then they have those numbers in there to say, okay, based on 80 conversations, how many phone calls is that going to take? And not only phone calls, I mean, it could be emails or text messaging. It could be conversations outside the office, but they have to be around real estate.
Yeah.
It can't be getting your nails done talking about whatever. It's got to
Yeah.
be real estate conversations. And that's kind of what you can expect. So if you go off of that number 80, if I could commit to, 100 calls a day, or maybe 50 calls a day and 5 conversations outside of the office around real estate, then based on those numbers, you should see 2 to 3 contracts a month.
Yeah. And I think business planning on the front end provides some certainty. Like, hey, if I want to do X amount of transactions, I need to talk to this many people. And we talked about having KPIs or key performance indicators in your business as an agent. It should be, how many people have you talked to today? How many people do you talk to a week? And by the way, for broker owners, this conversation is recruiting. You should have the same KPIs for how many agents you need to talk to a day to grow your business. But what agents are looking for, I've found in the last few months, they're looking for companies that offer them some sort of certainty around what you said, opportunities, people I can talk to, right? Because there's a focus on I have to talk to more people to do the same amount of business. So if I'm at a company that doesn't give me any opportunities to talk to more people, my business is going to go down. A smart agent is realizing that. So from an item of value perspective, you have to be able to offer opportunities. What you want to call them, lead generation or leads, whatever it is, opportunities to talk to more people. And I think the other big one, Preston, that we haven't talked about in this episode is technology. There's a lot of companies out there that either don't offer any kind of tech to their agents, where the agents have to go out and pay for it, or it's subpar. What they do offer just isn't something that's easy for the agent to run their business. And when I say tech, I'm see a lot of it revolves around CRM, website, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, I hear it a lot, and I see a lot of people that come in that are at companies where their fees are low, but then they have to buy all this stuff themselves.
Yes.
And a lot of times the things that are offered via franchise or whatever is not the best CRM, or they don't think it's the best CRM. So they end up buying a different CRM. Their lead gen's not that great. So end up investing in the lead gen, and all of a sudden they have thousands of dollars a month in fees and dues and everything else. And that's, for us, like when you look at technology on a grander scale, when you look at a CRM or what you look at a, website lead gen, as you scale it up, the cost per user goes down.
Mhm.
So we're able to scale it up. Like Follow Up Boss, I think we have 112 people in Follow Up Boss now. As that scales up, your cost per user goes down. So we're able to make it make sense for us as a company because, we have more users, the per user cost is lower. Where like a single agent, it's $100 a month or $200 a month or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, being able to do that, and the way we're set up, we're not forced to use any CRM or any technology. We could, as an independent company, we could choose what we think is best, and what we test. And, a lot of the things that we use now, I beta test, and I've beta tested the technology with the company itself. So it's a lot of things we use are very helpful for the agents.
Yeah. So just kind of when we talked about the return on investment, I think it's like a three-headed monster. When someone says, "What do you cost?" or "What do I get for this fee that I pay your company or this split that I pay your company?" You need to be able to talk on your training. You need to be able to talk on conversation opportunities, lead generation, whatever you want to call it. And then you need to be able to talk about your tech. That's the return on the investment the agent is looking for. And I think a lot of companies are struggling with that right now. I think companies got away with it was a hot market. Agents did a bunch of business. We offered them a competitive split, so they made good profit. But now that 5% of zero is zero,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, or 95% of zero is zero. So now agents are looking at companies that offer that return on that split investment. Um,
And also the one thing to bring up that is important, but it should not be something that a company has to advertise. I see companies
yes.
advertise this all the time as culture.
Yeah.
Like you should not have to advertise culture, right? I mean,
Mm.
culture, when I think of culture, I think of feeling, not you telling. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I think of, so really, when you have a great culture or think you have a great culture, it should not be something in your inner, oh, we have great culture. Your agents will be the ones that tell people if you have great culture or not. So those, that's something that when you think of like recruiting and if you have to go, if that is your spill and that's what you're selling, oh, we have great culture.
Mm.
I mean, what does that mean? I just think you should leave that up to your agents to share with people on what the culture is like within your company.
Yeah, I think culture has a lot to do with retention, but I think I will say this, I think you need to recruit to your culture, meaning if you're sitting across the table from somebody and they just don't feel like they'd be a good fit in your company, maybe they're cost focused, maybe they're telling you or indicating they're not learning based or growth mindset or whatever it is that's important to your culture and the agents that you're with, you do have to protect your environment a little bit. And that's what I mean. You got to recruit to your culture, and that's how
Yeah.
you
Well,
protect it.
the other way to protect it too, if you do have good culture, the culture will protect itself,
Sure.
right? If you have somebody that's not a fit, your culture will basically push them out pretty quickly, and I've
Talk
seen it happen.
talk about that. We've had some discussion around this, and I think as a leader, the best thing you could do is be consistent around your values, right? Talk about that. Like your culture will protect itself. Talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you believe in, whatever you're pushing, whatever, the things that are important to you, you can't change your views on that. You need to
Mhm.
stay consistent. No
Yes.
matter if it's a top producer agent or somebody brand new to the business, you need to stay consistent. And staying consistent, especially the agents have been with you for a while, I mean, they expect that consistency.
Yep.
And when you start bending those and as long as you can stay true to what your values are and your core values are and everything when you started, that will those people that come in that aren't a great fit, they end up getting pushed out, not by you as a leader, but by everybody within the community of your business and the culture of, you'll see those people pushed out. And we see that happen often.
Yeah, and I think with that, you hit the nail on the head. You have to stay consistent around policies, around values, around um, things you're committed to as a company, and eventually those bad apples, those bad seeds, will weed themselves out because they'll realize that hey, this isn't a good fit
Yeah.
for
And
me.
and John talks about principles, right?
Yeah.
Stay consistent to your principles and your culture will police themselves.
Yep. The last part is I think about when it comes to recruiting, I think it's overlooked as well. And it's something we're always working on as a company, I think, to improve the process of onboarding. I think it's so important that recruiting process. Like someone says, hey, I'm ready to join. What do I do? Right. I think that onboarding piece is so critical. I know you're passionate about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, we've the whole ever since we started, I've always said, and we've always agreed that we need to get better in onboarding. We need to
Yes.
get better in onboarding, and we've done the steps and made the steps, and went from one person handling it to a group of us handling it together to stay on top of it, because any new company starting out, a lot of times you got to wear a bunch of different hats
Yes.
and sit in a bunch of different seats to make it work. But like today, we hired somebody to handle onboarding
Mhm.
and to help us with that, and she will own that position and own that process. So that way, when we're bringing new agents on, they all go through the same steps. We same steps that the one before does, and we train them on how to find an answer, and so
Yes.
to get away from those got a minute, conversations, teach them on how to find the answer and where to go to find that answer.
Yeah. And I onboarded the onboarding person today. It's kind of funny to think about that. But, one of the things, you
How'd you
know,
do?
well, to set the tone for this person in their role, to me, the point of onboarding is to teach resourcefulness, right? You provide all this value as a company, but all that value does no good if the agent doesn't know how to take advantage of it,
Yeah.
right? So from day one, that onboarding process needs to be around how does the agent find the resources they need to take advantage of of all the value that you offer? Can they access the lead generation system? Can they access the online training? Can they use the tech, right? All that stuff, that's where the onboarding piece should revolve around, is teaching resourcefulness. It's going to make you more efficient as a leader because you're not going to be the got a minute guy or gal. And it's going to make that agent more productive because they know exactly where to find that answer when you're not available.
Yeah.
So to me, this is something I think as us as a company, as we grow, this is the leg that, and for any company out there, as you grow towards 100 agents or 150 agents, it's the leg that makes or breaks you, is how efficiently you can onboard people.
Yeah, and you got to think about it too. If you're not growing, like if you're not if you're out, if you want to grow your company, I mean, it's definitely something that you have to consistently do. Just like, any pipeline, if you take days off, it's going to show up,
Yeah.
right? If you take days off, and for us, where we're headed and where we're going, it's something we'll consistently and always do.
Mhm.
And when you look at it, I mean, you just continue to stay true to everything you said from the very beginning, from your values and principles and everything else, and just continue to recruit and continue to bring in more agents and more people. And then your brand grows, and the brand awareness grows, and we'll be at like 100 agents by the end of the year is our goal, and then we'll go continue going.
So I always like to break things down. In my mind, I like to say there's different departments or systems. So to me, to kind of summarize everything we just talked about from a recruiting standpoint, really it's kind of a three-headed monster, right? You have like recruiting. What's your system to call people every single day? Right? You have to have some sort of system in place. Retention. What's your Are you providing value or return on investment on the things you promised in the recruiting appointment? And are you reaching out to people internally every single day to make sure they are happy?
Yeah.
Right. And then the third part of it, I think that easily gets overlooked, Preston, is onboarding. They've committed. What's that next 90 days or the first 90 days they're with your company? What's that look like so they can take advantage of all the resources that you offer?
Yeah. And one thing with that, I'll drop a little note in that. A lot of times the best time to recruit somebody is when they just join a company, because
Yes.
after 30 or 45 days or 60 days, everything they were promised has not shown up.
Yeah.
So that's something to keep in mind if you're trying to grow your brokerage or your team.
Yep. I always say a conflict arises when expectations differ. So if they expected this and you're delivering this, you're going to have conflict. And trust me, there's other broker owners in your marketplace that watch that and they're making the calls.
Yep.
So
we have a special guest to end our podcast today that finally showed back up.
We do. We have our send-off guy for our podcast here today with us. He's got no school today, so he's with us helping us with podcast production. All right, guys, we'll have a great rest of your day. Have a great week. And Noah's going to send you off.
Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe.
All right, guys, take care.